what's really going on, everybody? Back again with episode number 62. Before we get into it, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, where this video will be in full. Be also sure to listen, like, comment, and share on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. I am, as usual, with Mackenzie and Henry. How are you guys doing on this post-Thanksgiving podcast edition?
Good, good. I'm not over Thanksgiving leftovers yet, so it's all good over here.
Yeah, I got one more plate left.
Yeah, I got like one more plate left.
Literally.
Got a peach cobbler saved, a piece of peach cobbler saved.
Not a peach cobbler fan, but I'll take the heat.
Really?
Ooh, I haven't had peach cobbler since I was a child.
I love peach
just
cobbler.
made me. Ooh, you were trying to send me some.
But yeah, it's all good over here.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, so we'll get right into it on some food for thought. I included this one first in the doc as we are all three current borrowers for student loan debt. So Biden in the transition, one of the things he's really been getting pressed on is forgiving student debt. Biden is being pressured to either relieve or forgive student debt for those who have had their payments stopped during COVID, myself included, which are expected to resume. My understanding is January 1 of next year. Some stats kind of on student loans, especially for Black borrowers. 86% of Black students take out student loans compared to 60% of whites. Blacks have an average of 85% more debt than whites starting their careers, mainly due to student loans. Biden has been pressured by members of the Senate to eliminate the first $50,000 for each borrower through executive order, which could potentially come on day one, which will likely be challenged in court. But should this kind of be his number one priority? I think that was the main question that I had.
Before we even get to that, looking at these stats, that is crazy. 85%. So damn near everybody. Like that is crazy. 86 compared to 60%. That is wild. That is crazy. But yeah, 50, listen, I think we talked about this before. Like if it's $50,000 across the board, private and federal.
That's what I want to know.
If it's really just going to be like federal, I mean, I shout out to people who that would impact, but I feel
that wouldn't impact me.
Yeah, that wouldn't impact me. And I feel like I don't really have the stats to back this up, but I feel like most of the chunk of the student loans are coming from private lenders. Mm-hmm. So I don't really... I mean, shout out to people who that would help, but I think that we're going to do it across the board or not. That's
what I was going to say when Noah was kind of talking about it, when he was like, payment stop. I was like, for who? Because I'm still paying salary.
Yeah, I still pay mine too.
What are you talking about?
I have Navient, so I don't have to pay mine until January 1. Yeah. I've still been paying them, but I don't have to.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's still there. I mean, it's just like.
Yeah, so, well, I actually had a question about how you're not paying until January because they're still hitting me up. Like, what are you talking about?
Now, the way I have it set up.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe it's just me. I don't know. But my federal, yes, they are paused until January. And I think, honestly, it should go up to like 100, but 50 is a good starting place because honestly, that'll clear all my little student debt and I'll be on boom.
To be honest, yeah, I think $100,000 clearing that out, that's bold, that's sexy, that's hot. Like that's leaving a mark on, you know, because 50,000, like you really just like that. These stats, 86%.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say.
85. That is crazy.
Yeah, like 50 is nothing for like like me and Noah. Yeah, we'll be good.
$50,000 though, like for like, other than state schools.
But that's what I was about to say.
$50,000. So
yeah.
Oh, go
that's
ahead,
what I'm trying to say. When you talk about 85%, and then you like go into the statistics of like where we go to school as Black people and how that's getting funded, et cetera, then like these people are in debt. That like that's what I was saying about like us. We might be good because I know we didn't take out a lot of student debt, but I know a lot of people like.
I mean, we all know people who are six figures deep.
Undergrad, bro.
Yeah.
200,000 off of undergrad for what?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, if you're taking, I mean, if you have.
Yeah, I can't even fault them because it's like you're stuck. Like it's kind of like, okay, don't go to school, and I guess I'm gonna try to hustle after high school, whatever that even is. then go to school, then I'm in. So it's just,
and then you live in DC to make $35,000.
Yeah. So it's just like,
yeah, I mean,
$100,000. I think we could do better than 50, but I'll take 50.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Henry. I want to see what's in the details, because like obviously like for private's a big thing, because I mean I didn't find any stats about this when I was looking this up, but I'm sure it's true. I wonder what the difference is between interest rate on black borrowers versus white borrowers. Because then that gets to like intent of like you as a company are trying to hold these people hostage because you think that they're not going to be able to pay it back. So like I wonder what I wonder what my interest rate would be for compared to a white borrower who has the same like amount of loans. I'm sure probably mine is higher if I had to bet.
And then also in the details, I mean, I know that they're gonna do an income level too, so that could be,
they mentioned that. Yeah,
that could be a thing too.
Certain people had mentioned it to where you would have to pay like 10% of your income or certain parts of that. I know Biden had thought about doing like a thing where if you do national service or like some type of community service program, they'll like forgive 10,000 a year. But it doesn't seem like. But at that point, everybody was just saying like, well, why not just cancel it out if you're doing all that? What's the point?
It's gonna be some type of contingency.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I definitely think to like the main question, to kind of like wrap this up, it definitely needs to be a number one priority. Going in the first day and doing it. Oh, you bold. I'm like, okay, you got my attention, buddy. Let's see. You know what I'm saying?
I think he should. I mean, that'd be a great way of like on day one, even if it doesn't work, because it's someone's gonna sue the administration over it. But like, why not just say like, hey, this is what this is what we're on.
If we going in here like this,
this is
then y'all better expect, because how we get into later in the document, this Senate is gonna determine a lot of what they can do. So I definitely think them going there the first day, making this number one priority and fighting until it becomes accomplished. We not taking no. Because even if we don't win the Senate, we got enough willpower to push a little bit. But beyond that, just kind of boom. I definitely think it should be the number one priority. If they go in there the first day and making an executive order, he's gonna get a lot of attention, especially from young Black people. And that was set like standard of what this administration is trying to achieve, and I would very much appreciate it.
Amen.
I'm sure a lot of people would very much appreciate it.
Right. So moving on, so as of course everyone, since we were on the holidays, obviously the big thing is COVID. Naturally the vaccine, that's kind of Operation Warp Speed, that's really heating up. I read an article that was in the Washington Post. We can put it in the description. It basically talked about Blacks and Latino, their support or lack of, kind of trust in the vaccine. So a survey found that fewer than half of the Black respondents of the survey would definitely take the COVID vaccine if free. Only 14% of Blacks felt that the vaccine or trusted that the vaccine would be safe. Overall, Black and Latino communities were more hesitant than whites by a considerable amount. So I think my question is, can kind of the overall confidence in the vaccine be improved, and what would that take? Obviously, that is rooted in like centuries-old problems, but is there any way, Mackenzie? I'll let you start.
I don't think there's really, because it's like you said, like the reasons why people don't trust have just been like, it's so historical. It's just kind of like, I don't really think there's any way to improve it. I mean, I guess the best way to start getting these Black famous celebrity heads to, be like, no, you should take it or whatever. But I mean,
I don't think any, granted,
Mackenzie, can I ask you a question since you said that? Because to I guess play devil's advocate for a thought you put out on the podcast before is like, you don't think celebrities should, into politics and stuff.
I was saying celebrities, like that's the only way that they might be able to win, but I don't think that that's really gonna, it wouldn't change my opinion, because I would just be thinking they paid you to do that. That would be the only, I guess on paper, I feel like in the boardroom, they're probably gonna be like, let's get Beyonce, or let's get, somebody to, really convince people. But I mean, will it actually convince a person like me? No.
Got you.
No, I don't think that that's gonna change anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing commercials with Black celebrities.
Yeah, I think so.
That part, that I wouldn't be surprised by the endorsements, but I don't think they're gonna do anything. And for me as a Black man, I'm gonna just say syphilis study.
Yeah, but it's stuff like that where it's like you can't like convince us because it's that type of stuff that has happened. So
I am good, bro. Like I need a few test dummies, and if they want to pay somebody $200-$500 to be the dummy, you go ahead.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm scared of, because the world, in a sense, doesn't necessarily know how it's contaminated, contracted, or how it's spread, whatever. It may become like, you know how you go to school and you have to get the shots and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It could become like one of those type of vaccines, and that's what I'm scared of, because it's like, well, I had to do that stuff, which I do because I have to, but I don't really believe in Western medicine for real.
God.
Next.
I subscribe to it's a look. I subscribe.
Once you brought in you taking a shot to go to school, I knew there was only a certain amount of time before you drove that off the rails.
I'm just saying, like, it's weird, bro. Like, I'm gonna do it because that's the right thing to do. But I subscribe to it. I don't really believe in it. But moving on past my little thoughts, is you like,
yeah,
yeah. I'm weirded by it because it's like, well, we don't trust it, and then like, for instance, how Trump has been like rushing these companies and all this, and like, oh, it's gonna be out, and then like maybe even creating bid wars or whatever. To where, like, can we trust that it's actually gonna work? What are the side effects? Like,
yeah, and some of these drugs, you don't know 20 years from now. There's some
effect that happens. You took
like
COVID vaccination.
Yeah, yeah, or you're like trying to like, God forbid, and it's crazy. I was talking about this to some of my friends that are women. And, we trying to get pregnant 10 years from now and something goes left because of this vaccine. Like all of these things are it's just been so quick. And like, especially when they've talked about like before, like creating vaccines takes a long time. And this has been a couple, we really haven't really hit a full year yet.
Bro,
and they're coming out.
That's what's blowing my mind about it. And Noah, you can kind of get in here. But I think for me, it's like, this is the fastest I've seen modern medicine move with any type of cure, vaccine, or anything. Or am I tripping?
My understanding is yes. But I think that's because, one, I think science is more advanced, so they would probably be able to do it quicker. I mean, I'm not a doctor or a, epidemiologist, so I can't say any of that. I think my main thing is I think there's just a lack of information sharing, where I think that we don't really know. We know that the vaccine is ready, but like, how many of us really know what the trials have been like? I don't. I think I would feel more comfortable if I know that they've gone somewhat successful, but what does that mean? I don't know. That's partly of me not really doing my homework, but I think that's also like, obviously the Trump administration is not really going to do much, but the CDC and like the companies who are doing it are not really being, I think, to eliminate a little bit of that hesitancy is you have to present as much information as possible and let people decide whether that's useful. I think the sad thing is that our confidence is so low in the vaccine, even though we're the community who needs it most.
Yeah.
So I think that there then has to be another conversation of like, if we can't get, Blacks and Latinos, the most vulnerable medical communities, to kind of take this, what then do we do? Because then there's like, that's the harder work, where like, I would want to take it. I'm not going to be the first one. But like, but I think that's what's concerning to me, is that like, we need it most, and for natural reasons that have to do with like, the Tuskegee thing, but also even like more like recent stuff. Like there are a lot of health disparities even today for both men, especially for women, that just kind of are accepted. So like for me, the hesitancy is not just in stuff that's like 100 years old. It's stuff as recent as like stuff that's still ongoing today, where it's like, Mackenzie is less likely to believe that she feels pain if she goes to the doctor. And like, that's still a thing.
This is like chapter 20 in Black people in America getting the short end of the stick.
Listen, that ain't even no short end of the stick. Just being respected as a human being, honestly. And that, honestly, what it boils down to, and our trust within all of this in the system and the vaccine or whatever, is like, do we trust the people that's giving it to us? That's really what it
No.
kind
No.
Right.
And I think for most people, the answer would be no, because most people don't. So we're going to keep y'all posted on that. That's going to be a mess. Henry, I'll let you get on your soapbox since the most recent, the latest election are the 2 Senate races in Georgia, which will control the majority in the Senate. The main attraction for us on this podcast, of course, is Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler versus the Democratic candidate, Reverend Raphael Warnock. Loeffler was an outspoken critic of WNBA players protesting the death of Breonna Taylor. Loeffler is the co-owner of the Atlanta Dream. Players from the Dream, when kind of like all of like the bubble stuff was going on, they basically all wore shirts that said "Vote Warnock," which pissed her off, and then she did a bunch of like foul comments and stuff like that. So, Henry, since Mackenzie and I do not live in the state of Georgia, what's kind of like the mood like there? Because it's a tough turnaround. I think my biggest concern is like, how do people get registered to vote in a pandemic in an election in 7 weeks?
So that's what I was gonna say. Let's just, when y'all say Atlanta outside, shawty. Like they outside. So to that point, to 2 points. One, I like made a mental note because like where I'm like physically taping the podcast or we're doing a podcast or whatever, I'm in Fulton County, which is like the city limits of Atlanta. And in Fulton County, it's more aggressive commercials diminishing Warnock's like character. Like I seen this commercial the other day, some cop saying he's trying to defund the police, and they had all these like pictures, black and white, of like people protesting and like looting and all that. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. But she didn't directly endorse the thing. It was like
it was another group. Yeah.
And then another thing I noticed is like in the city again, like directly after his commercial come on where he's talking about like education, like, all this stuff. And then Obama approves and Stacey, all of that little fun stuff. Her commercial comes on right after and it's a lawful has been 100% with Georgia. She's whatever. Because his main thing is she's been trying to fight to get the Affordable Care Act overturned during a pandemic. And then when I go to like my mom's house or my sister's house, which is like further in the suburbs, definitely further in the suburbs, like not Fulton County. So it's more conservative out there to say. The commercials are, it seems to be Warnock is pumped up like more like, he's against defunding the police, and they have different like police officials and whomever in there like approving it. And then like Lawful, whatever her name is, her commercials don't seem to be that freaking bad. At the same time, I haven't been over there as much, so it could be the same play. I don't know, but that was just like a mental thing. I literally was like chilling with like my goddaughter, and I was chilling with her dad and like whatever. And I'm like, wait, bro, like this is so weird because when I was at
it's different places.
Whatever. So it was interesting. So like for me, especially how Georgia just turned blue or whatever, it was mainly because of the Atlanta metropolitan area and then some southern Georgia places, which is, blacks. So with that being the case, and like how I just explained how they're like pushing the promo of whatever, they're like, it seems like in the city where the blacks are primarily, they're pushing like this agenda to where like, oh, he's trying to like, take this from you or do this, and like she's been this white savior. Versus like in the suburbs, it's like, oh, she cool, she's to positive and like Warnock is against all this liberal movement and progression, whatever. So that's been interesting. And then, like, honestly, everywhere, again, in the city, you see, like, vote early posters, and then it has, like, December 14th on there. So, like, and then you have a lot of people who are out, like, telling people to, vote or whatever. So I think it's interesting to see, it's interesting because when, they announced who won, like Atlanta was on fire, like everybody was outside. Yeah. I was driving through the city that day and people like just go like happy, like it's like celebratory. So that's my point to like the energy in the city right now is very, I guess, amplified to where like you can see people hungry for like wanting to see that change and seeing that how such an impact that this city that we like to call like Black Hollywood or whatever, it actually has impact. Because when you looked at the statistics, what did we see? It was the Atlanta metropolitan area and then some few spots in southern Georgia that were blue and pushing us to essentially, you know what I'm saying, get that, like, you know what I'm saying, get the vote or whatever. And then majorly around Georgia is still very conservative. So it's just interesting to see how much impact or power you have as a city, and then you see like the energy behind it. It is very interesting.
Nice facts. From Mackenzie, from a newsroom kind of standpoint, is this like a major topic for you all, or is this kind of like something that's just happening but not really that big?
I don't think it's that big, at least not yet, because at least for us, we've been really trying to like just stop talking about the 2020 presidential election because it's still like, like I think it was still last week, they were still like other people were still trying to recount and do
Right.
stuff like that. So we haven't really talked about that essentially.
Talk
But
about
I
that real quick. Him suing and paying people to do all these
yeah.
like,
So
what?
it was all of that. So that is still happening. So we really haven't talked about it that much. But I will say I did see an ad of the Reverend, and it was he's
Yeah, he
so
has good
corny, but
ads.
I love it. But it
Yeah,
was
he
so
has good
funny
ads. They're very shtick,
with his
but
dog.
He's very much a Southern guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, going into this week, now that I feel like we can really close the 2020 presidential election and like fully be done with that, we'll see what comes of that. But it hasn't been that big of a deal yet.
No, that's facts. So kind of moving on from the 2020 election, now we can go into the big fact. I think the big thing that we talked about, largely through private conversations we had throughout the week, was what should we kind of expect from the Biden administration. So far, President-elect Biden has begun announcing his senior White House staff and cabinet picks. So far, when I did this, and then Biden actually released something earlier today, thanks to Mackenzie. So far, when I did this earlier today, he had tapped 2 Blacks for positions that include Linda Thomas Greenfield for UN ambassador and Representative Cedric Richmond for senior advisor. Mackenzie, correct me if I'm wrong, but he also announced a slate of Black women, largely for communications roles, mainly on Kamala Harris's team.
Yeah.
Mainly Black women, so that's really good.
I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, same. So we can get into that in a second. Progressive members of Congress and organizations have been pushing Biden to work on the ambitious agenda that he said he was going to during the campaign. I think this is kind of an interesting question, like what should we expect? Because I think it gets to kind of like this kind of generational divide, this racial divide that kind of is going on among Democrats. So kind of like, what do you all feel about, like, what do you expect from Biden and kind of his administration picks? Because I'm kind of lukewarm, not really like excited, but I mean, I guess this is what we actually should have expected. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay, I just looked it up. I don't know if it's just vice president that the women are. It just is like communications team overall. So
yeah, very broad.
Yeah, very broad. But I definitely did see it was vice president heavy. Like most of them, I think, are on Harris's team, which I do think was kind of like, I don't know. That was just kind of
signaling
like,
to a certain degree.
Yeah, signaling and half-ass, going back to like the 50,000 thing, $50,000. Do something bold. Like he still hasn't, other than like selecting Kamala as VP, which was, I mean, honestly, I don't really think it was that bold. I feel like it was kind of like
a logical choice.
Yeah, the best choice in the situation. But I mean, shout out to all the women. They're women of color. I'm not gonna take that away from them. And I am excited to see what they're gonna do. And
well,
communications though, I'm like, no shade. Communications is definitely dominated by women though, so it's still kind of like
yeah.
Okay. It was, and that's why I said it was interesting earlier. To 2 points I want to bring up. One, communications is dominated by women, largely.
Yeah.
So that being the case, that's not surprising. And then for most of these people of color, to my second point, I mean, the Democratic Party need to realize, like, you keep trying to integrate it, but whatever, we know who your party is. So the people that are in these main positions, I definitely need to think, definitely need to be representative of your party. And y'all get what I'm throwing out, right?
Just be bold. Be bold.
Do it. Yeah, come on now.
Okay,
Say
so
it.
we know Black women by large support the Democratic Party. That's one. And then we know that your base is always Black people that get you over the little crossing breaks. We just seen it in the last election. So with that being the case, stop trying to, like Stacey Abrams has said multiple times, stop trying to appease these people who are not interested in your party. You know what I'm saying? Get the people who are standing for, you know what I'm saying, what the party is moving toward, what the party wants to accomplish. And I think that's a problem within the Democratic Party within itself. So, like, to the point of what do we expect from this administration, it's hard to say what do we expect, because especially with this being like a older conservative like figurehead, which, you know what I'm saying, people have had problems with Kamala's track record and Biden's track record because they've existed in these hard on crime time periods and these older conservative time periods to where we didn't like that stuff, to where now, you know, defunding the police is on the table. Is like, well, what are we doing about this? Or certain issues that us as young progressives the party, like, us as young progressives and Black women, these are issues that directly affect these people. Why Black women are birthing this young progressive generation, you know what I'm saying? These are the people that are gonna carry you over the like little rope. So I think you need to have people in these high positions representative of that. That's just my opinion.
Wait, so what are you saying? I'm confused.
I mean, I'll try to sum it up. I think what you're saying is that they actually need to kind of pick people who are actually about it. Because I think, like, even the person I mentioned, Cedric Richmond, who's like a pretty well-known member of Congress, like kind of pretty high profile. He was really big on like the Biden campaign. He kind of after the election was basically like, we shouldn't have said defund the police because it cost us seats like in Congress and across the board, which is like, that's a weird point to make as one, as a Black person, two, as someone who you claim you sit on the Judiciary Committee, so you have authority on, you know, all of these like kind of legal judicial matters. That's just a weird point to make. And I think that's like, it's just dumb. It's like, what are you trying to do? You're basically thanking people for voting for you, but then shitting directly
on the people that voted for you.
Right. So it's like,
I
worry about.
Sounds like the Democratic Party.
But that's literally my point.
Yeah.
That's
and
my point.
What concerns me is that this is a Black person. So I think like it gets to like the old adage that we always agree with, that like, it's not just about the representation, it's about like, what are they actually going to do? And like, I think even some of the people who I think Biden will pick of color and of women, I think even that still needs to be like, okay, yeah, you're checking the box and having a diverse looking on the surface, but like, what are they for?
Yeah, what are
like,
they really about?
That's what I'm saying.
I just looked up Cedric. He's his district is most of New Orleans, boy.
Yeah, so like, that's just a bad. This is a bad point to make.
That's literally what I was saying, Mackenzie. Like, how can we? What can we expect when the face of the Democratic Party right now existed within a conservative time period, and most of the people he may pick will still exist within that time period? When we see people like the Squad, who is like a small percentage but very like loud and vicious and like trying to make actual progressive moves, like we need people like that.
And the one thing that I actually like am kind of looking forward to is like Mackenzie sent us a really good video of this Representative Cori Bush, who was basically like clapping back on people for like thinking she was Breonna Taylor for some dumbass reason. But like, I think what gives me hope is that like people like her and AOC and Ayanna Presley, I think they're just saying like, I'm going to say what I have to say. And if you don't like it, then that's just on you. But I'm going to speak my mind. Mm-hmm. And if y'all aren't doing what y'all said y'all are going to do, whether Black or white, y'all going to hear from me. Yeah. That at least gives me hope that at least like the Democratic Party is not just going to be like, oh, well, we're just for this because Biden, we're like AOC and all, and like Cori Bush are going to be like, no, this isn't good enough. And like, I think they've been making the point of like, you keep asking these people to vote for you when you're not doing anything for them. And eventually it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And I think that what makes me happy is that I just don't think they care about like the political game of it. If they don't think it's right, they're gonna be vocal about it. And
yeah, I agree.
they've already started attacking Richmond for saying that. So
the decisions.
What do you say, Henry?
More people like that need to be making the decisions. Like
yeah.
Or just bullying everybody to make
right.
The decision.
Yeah, I think
because bullying works.
Yeah, bullying works.
I think my theory at this point is that I would rather AOC and Cori Bush and all these other people just blow it up and be like, if we're gonna have the fight, let's have the fight. But like, you're not gonna keep telling me you're for something when it comes down to it, you always say it's like it's too socialist or it's too progressive. Like, at some point, you got to call a spade, and whether that's members of your own party, you got to do it. You have to do it.
This is kind of random, but I don't know if y'all remember Kamala tweeted, this is when they were like still debating, and she tweeted like, no, we're not against fracking. And I was just like, wait.
And even AOC was like no, like that's not the like what are you talking about? So I actually think that that's like good, because I think even juxtaposed to like the Republicans where they let Trump do anything and no one was ever pushing back, I think Democrats have more of an appetite to be like, no, like whatever Kamala or Joe was talking about, like, fuck out of here. Like, I actually think that people are going to do that. And I think that like progressive organizations, especially, and like if Democrats do something if they don't do anything about voting, they got to deal with Stacey Abrams, and they have to deal with like other people. So like,
I'm glad you said her name, because I was literally about to say Stacey. I'm interested to see, and then we can kind of like finish up. I'm interested to see if the DNC, because I respect her being a real civic leader, not going to the Senate, because she could have easily took one of those.
She's running for governor again. I mean, just
that's what I'm about to say.
She's running for governor again.
I respect that she said no. I'm literally focusing on voter suppression in Georgia and trying to fix it. But what I was gonna say is I'll be interested to see if like the DNC offers her an official position to serve in
the funny thing is, she would probably be like, "That's beneath me."
Right.
She would be like, "Y'all, you need me more than I need you."
Right.
Because her influence, it is so crazy, like that you lost, and your influence is still, I feel like, even greater now that you lost. So,
and I think that's probably why she
didn't. You can't stop a black woman when she on a mission.
Yeah, you can't stop a black woman who joined Versus with Gucci and Jeezy.
She said, "I got shooters on go."
I keep it on me. So that's actually what I'm like just really looking forward to. I hope that especially because I think we all know, just because you are a Democrat doesn't mean that you don't do racist shit. So I think that 2021 needs to be the year that we call this out.
Listen, call these motherfuckers out.
We've only got 3 minutes left, and I just want to get Mackenzie's take on one thing before we kind of wrap it up. So Scotland, I don't know if you knew this, but Scotland announced that they would make sanitary pads and tampons free. The government now has the power to basically say like public serving stuff that gets public dollars in schools, you have to provide it for free. I think that's amazing.
That's amazing. It needs to happen in America immediately. Especially like not even for people who can't afford them like me or whatever, but I just always think about people who are in jail or like just in situations where they cannot afford these things. So I'm just so happy that happened, and I really hope that will happen in America. So I'm really happy about that.
That's a good move. And like, this is like off the wall, but like I think like stuff like we see how these other countries are like so progressive and like helping their people, but is it America don't? Yeah, we got one stimulus check, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Look that $1,200. Apparently, we should have all bought properties off for the rest of the year. But we should have all put our money together and bought a 4-bedroom duplex unit. But I guess we're living our life wrong. So that is all that we have for episode 62. Be sure once again to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, where you can watch all of our videos and some special short content that we put out. Be sure to like, subscribe, listen, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google Play. We have 2 minutes left. Henry, I'm going to time you and give you 1 minute. Do you want to talk about your party?
I love you. Nah, so you know what I'm saying? I do marketing. Y'all know. If you don't know, I do. The Umbrella Network is the name of my company. We're officially like boom, bam here on December 31st of 2020. You know what I'm saying? We're getting over the past and moving forward, 2021 forward. Buy a ticket. You can go to Last King, Henry, T.S. Purdue. Caught that ticket. Even go to Eventbrite and search The Black Masquerade. We on there. We plug if you're a Black business, entertainer, anything progressive for the Black community. We want you in the event. It will be COVID restricted, limited people invited, and limited, you know what I'm saying, tickets sold, and all, you know, temperature checks, hand sanitizer, mask enforcement, all of that. So if you can pull up, if you can't, you know what I'm saying, send some merch and we'll promote you.
And send some donations.
Definitely the donations.
Yes.
Ooh, the donations. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that is it. So thank you, everybody.